Okay. That should have been enough time. So, what does draw windows look like? Somebody want to tell me? All right, Tanner, let's go.
So first you have to have the access.
All right. So we'll do private.
Yeah, private. And then the return type, void.
Void.
And then you want to have the name. So draw windows. I did lowercase d, capital W.
That is correct. We haven't talked about why that's correct yet, but that is correct.
And then parentheses, and then bracket.
Okay. Now note the return type is void because we're just going to perform some actions in this method. We are not actually going to get a value back out of it. We're just going to do stuff and that's it. There's no parameters because we don't need to give any information for how to draw the windows. Okay, next, let's actually make the windows or the variables that are going to store them. So, what are the windows? What type are we going to use for this? A Grect. That makes sense, right? They're squares. So we'll make a private Grect. We'll call it L window, like that. That is not a 1, that's an L. Sorry for the font. And then we'll have another private Grect, and we'll call it R window. Just like that. So now that we have done this, this is declaring our windows. Now we need to initialize our windows. So let's just start with the left window. So down here inside draw windows that we just made. So we've got these made. Now we're going to go and assign to this. We're going to say L window is equal to a new Grect. And you know, I'm not quite sure about the size yet, but let's use 30. Actually, how about this? Let's use 50 by 50. Remember to not type the V or the V1. Just the 50 and the 50. IntelliJ adds the V and the V1 itself. Oh, and you need the comma, of course, but. Now, I want to set this up the same way we set up walls, because the formula is going to be relatively long, so I don't want to have to type it in the add bit. I'm going to do some variables, double X. I'm not going to set it equal to anything yet, so I'll just write double X, and then we have double Y. Yep. And then we're going to be adding the walls at X, Y. Now, if we ran our program right now,
Or L window.
or sorry, that is correct. Add L window at XY. Now XY have not been assigned to yet, and so it's not going to work. We'll just go ahead and assign them to 0 by default, like this. We're going to put some formulas in there in a minute. If we ran our program now, where is our window going to draw?
At 0, 0.
At 0, 0. Where is 0, 0? The top left corner, yes. What's the...
Because it isn't positive X right and positive Y down.
Yes, that is correct. So whenever you see those,
What's with the Discord? The Discord user thing for the font. Oh, what do you guys suggest?
when we make something, if you were absent for the explanation, when we make something up here in the top, when we make something up here at the top, that's called global because it's in the class, but it's not in any method. When we make it inside the method, it's called local because it's local.
His name is Junior Muffin. I should rename my Discord username to Cog and Cons. I know, but I can also.
So these are called methods.
What's the problem?
They're basically like little chunks of that's the
Shaking.
They're like little chunks of code we can do or what's referred to as calling the method, which lets you run the code on demand as many times as you want. Okay. The thing is, yes, if I ran my program right now, my window would draw in the top left corner. That is because, let me Alt-Tab here, or into my Photoshop. So we've got our walls. We have to remember that 0, 0 is like, actually that's not quite where it is. We have to remember that 0, 0 is right here. And so if we start drawing our window at 0, 0, we should get something like this, except you won't see this top bit. Looks like I need to shrink my eraser a little bit. Let's switch to the eraser, actually. Just a second while I switch the size of the eraser here. We'll do that. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So that's 0, 0, and if we draw right now, our window is completely off. We want the window to be on the walls like this. Well, we're worrying about the L window first, so we'll just... That's where we want it. The question is, how do I write a formula that's going to get that for me? So if we jump back in our program, when I'm talking about a formula, this is the part I'm talking about, where we have to plug in double X and double Y. We'll start with X, though. Just like we did with the walls, we'll do the X position first. So where do we want the left window to be? Where should it go? It should go inside the walls, yeah, on top of the walls. How do I do that? Would be the question. So before, the walls were sitting center on the window, so I needed to know how wide the window was so I could position the walls relative to the window. But I don't want to position the window relative to the walls. Or sorry, I don't want to position the windows relative to the window, like the actual box that we're drawing on. I'm going to call it the canvas from now on. I don't want the windows relative to the canvas. I want the windows relative to the walls. How do I do that? Anyone have a guess what we might need to do? Oh, hey, Asia. I need to mark you here. That's fine. Any ideas? Yes, or something similar to it. So that's what we're looking for. How do I get information out of an instance of a class? So walls is an instance of what class? A Grect. So how do I get any of the information out of it? I don't print from it. What did we do up here? We got the width of the walls by using the member access operator, which is the period. So we got the width of the walls like that. So we want to do walls. But here's the thing. Do we want to do get width? What does walls.getWidth actually return to us? And if we look here on the box, actually, remember the return types are on the right. So in the box, you have these methods, and wherever you have a method or a variable, on the right side, you'll see the type. So getWidth returns a double. If I say walls.getWidth, what number do I get? The width of the walls, which is 300. The window's 30. The walls are 300. So if I say walls.getWidth, the number I actually get is 300. So for experiment's sake, let's put get width in there like that. And then let's run this. Or wait, actually nothing will happen. We have to call draw windows first. So after you put walls.getWidth right here, everybody go ahead and do that. Now let's scroll up to init. And inside of init, after we call draw walls, let's call draw windows. We'll just do this in order.
Do we need to do L window?
We'll put them both in the same method. It'll work fine. They're very similar, and so it makes sense to do them both at the same time. So we've got draw windows, and now that that method is being called, for those who are absent, we refer to this as a method call when we do this right here. Now if we run our program, it'll draw the walls, and then it will call draw windows, and it will attempt to draw the window, but it's going to be in the wrong spot. So let's see what we see.
So it's just like the walls. We did the Y.
So it's at walls.width. So remember, the ACM draws stuff from the top left corner. So since we're only dealing with the x-axis, we won't worry about up, down right now. Let's just worry about this leftmost edge. Currently, the left edge here is drawing 300 pixels from 0, 0. So this is 300 pixels over. That's not quite right. If I put the other window, how am I going to position the other window correctly? So this isn't going to work. We can't use get width. So we'll close that. Let's look at it from this perspective. Here's my walls again. Let's split the walls up. Maybe like this. Or instead of splitting it twice, it's probably beneficial for us to split it 4 times, although because of my current drawing, that's a little bit difficult to work with. That would make 4 sections. I drew those pretty uneven, but let's split our walls into 4 total sections. But we have 3 lines, and so we would call this line, what would we name these lines? If I was to give them a numerical value.
1, 4, 2.
Well, so each section would be a 4th. But what would the lines be?
1/3, 2/3.
Right, 1/3, 2/3, or 3/3. But we can't just write 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 in code. So what is the mathematical equivalent there? 0.33, although for this first quarter, we can actually call this, we'll call it 0.25. We'll call this 0.75. Like this. Because we're getting the leftmost edge. So if I was going to put that, and it's 0.25 and 0.75 of what? Of the width of the walls. Okay? It's 0.25 and 0.75 of the width of the walls. So, if I switch back to my code here, walls.getWidth is not where we want to start from, but we can do walls.getWidth times 0.25 and save that number for later. And I'm going to put it in its own set of parentheses like this. But the problem with that is that if I run my program now, and you don't have to run it to see this, but now it's moving it over even less, because walls.getWidth times 0.25 is 300 times 0.25. And if you're wondering where I'm getting the 300 from, it's this right here, under walls equals new grect. We said the width of the walls was 300. So 0.25, that's not quite any good, because our window's drawing in the wrong spot. So we'll close that. So the question is, where do I actually want to start drawing my window from? Where would the beginning be before I modify it. So let's call this like the modifier. This is the amount that we're changing the starting position. We said earlier, I want this to be relative to the walls. So let's bring up walls dot and get that box again. Now it's here on the screen. What do you think is most likely to get us something useful here? Get x. That is correct. So get x gets us the x position of the walls. And the x position of the walls is the left edge of the walls. So if we do walls.getX and add to it 1/4 of the width of the walls, now we're getting somewhere. So let's run this and see what we've got. Okay, that's a little better. Now we're drawing this window. We're pretty close. Let's mess with the height a little bit. The height's pretty similar. What do you think the height looks like? What's the formula for the height look like, do you think? Yeah, we'll start with walls.getY because that'll get us the top edge of our walls. And then we're going to add, because remember that in the ACM positive is down. And we're going to add, do we want walls.getWidth times 0.25 though? Well, we want get height, but do we want the 0.25? How do I want to modify the height? Where's the window probably going to be? I think that we probably want our window right along the middle. That makes sense. Because what I really want is a window drawn like this. Or similar. I'm going to need to erase my... Well, 0.5 would be one way to go about it. We want half the height, right? So here's my box. I've split the box 4 times, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, so we have 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. And here on the y-axis, we just have 0.5 that we care about. And there's 1. So I want my window to be there, like that. Right? So we've got this 0.25 thing going on. So we need to do 0.5 or half of the height. So let me switch back to the code again. All right, so to get half the height, I could multiply this by 0.5 or I can simply divide it by 2. So that's pretty good. Let me run it. We're close, but what's wrong? It's not centered, it's too low. It's also too far to the right, actually. So what changes do I need to make to my formulas to get it to be where I want? Let's start with the height because it's more obviously wrong. What do I need to do? What needs to happen? That is correct. We want to subtract half the height of the window because that's how far we want to move back up. So I'm going to put walls.getHeight divided by 2 in its own parenthesis set. There's a lot of parentheses, so be careful. And then I'm going to subtract. Let me scroll over a bit. LWindow.getHeight divided by 2. Be careful where you write this and how you write this. The walls.get height divided by 2 minus window.get height divided by 2. Anyone not have this? Okay. Let's see what we just did. Speaking only from a height perspective, I guess I'll just erase all this again. I'll just give myself a whole bunch of space. Okay, so here's my box. Here's the middle line. What we did at first was to draw the window here, which is not what we want. It's too low. Because this, remember, it starts drawing from the top left corner. So if we plugged in this halfway line, which is the walls.get height divided by 2 that we did, that's the halfway point there. That means it's going to start drawing from that halfway point and then go down and to the right, because that's how it always draws. So we needed to pull it up, which is where the L window divided by 2 comes in, because the amount or the distance that I want to travel going up is half of the total height of my window. In doing so, I pushed my window up and got it where I wanted it to be. Now it's still wrong here for a very similar reason. It's drawing like this, but I want it like this. So let's see if you can make that change. That's going to be right in here. You're going to want to put this own set of parentheses. And then what change do you need to make to that? Let's see if you guys can do it. Give it a shot. Get your window drawn in the right spot. From what I see so far, I see pretty good results. And then if it ever gets like jumbled kind of like this, you push all L. So that would start a little further. So we added this. This is actually slightly too far. So we really want to add that much minus half the width of very similar for the height. It's kind of like what we did last time. So this is basically the same. All right, what did you guys get? Someone give me something they think will work. Okay, Doug, go ahead.
You subtract it by lwindow.getWidth.
That is correct. So I'm going to zoom out a bit here so you can all see. This is the final formulas for the L window. Make sure that this is what you have. I'll give you a little bit to write it out. But that is correct. If I run the program right now, my window is drawing exactly where I want it to. Let me try to move this over without getting in your way. So these formulas did exactly what I wanted and drew the window perfectly center on the halfway line going up and down and on the 1/4 line going across. Do we understand what happened? Because now, what I would like you to do, well, I'll give you a little bit longer to write this out just in case. Yes, question? Let's see what it is. Yes, it should be. Oh wait, no, the draw window should be in the same. Sorry, I thought you were doing that. It's because double X and double Y are the okay. Yeah. Oh,
We don't have
This is a different configuration. I don't know why that happens.
Okay. Let's move on. How much time do we have? Probably not a lot. Oh, actually more than I thought. This is good. Okay. Other window. I'm going to have you guys do the other window on your own. However, you'll encounter an issue. You are not allowed to use the same name for a variable twice unless one of them is global and the other one is local. I'll say that again, or I'll show you. You don't have to write this, just watch. If I come up here in my global space, this is a global variable, and I make double X. That's allowed. This double X is global. This double X is local. This double X is local. Let me explain the priority system to you so that you'll know. You should avoid naming things the same thing when possible, except in a couple things that we'll talk about in the future. The priority system is the local variable will be used first. So if I have a global double X, and then I try to talk about, and I have a local double X, if I say X, it's going to want to use the local one first. It would assume the global one second. Does that make sense? Any questions about what that is? All right, I'm going to delete that. Again, you shouldn't have written it down anyway. But that presents a problem because in draw windows, we're going to have two double X, double Y. We can't do that because they're both local and it won't know the difference between the two. So we're not allowed to do that. Instead, it's an easy fix. We just give them different names. So we'll call this one RX and RY, or sorry, LX and LY because it's for the left window. And then we just have to go through and change the name in all those spots. Boom, problem solved. Given that, please try to do the right window on your own. You're not going to make it in a different method. It should just go like right here. So I'd like you to repeat the above process on the right or on our window. It'll be a little bit different, not too much. Let's see if you can figure it out. Yeah.
Like that?
Yes, like that.
No.
You don't hear those start up to 7. I don't know if you're not allowed to move 4%. You just want to do the same thing you just did to the left window. Use your statistical formula. But for the right window. Right. Now we already declared the right window, so we reserve the spot. We haven't put it in. So this first line, really the reason why I should put something in the line. So it's just these 4 lines. The process pretty much. So I'm just reading these so that all I'm going to the window. So it's so give it a try. It's very similar. Get why I was right. This is on.
Oh. No.
The reason
Oh, no, I'm done.
is that from left to right, you want to go kind of off-center a little bit, but from top to bottom, you want to be perfectly centered. So instead of multiplying by 0.25, because that's a quarter of the way across, with the height, they want to do half of it. So we just divide by 2 instead. It also multiplies by 0.5.
I'm going to go over that with everybody later. It's actually
What is
figure it out.
With set filter.
Yes, but there's another step. Because by default, they weren't filled.
But now it's more work.
Okay, your left one is a little more on the this value. That was the test you.
Oh. That means that this push thing. What? I just didn't know that.
So with methods, you can. So
No, that would be happy.
remember that.
Yeah, but that's and all the ones. Just the way.
That code.
That's right.
It'll say
Left hand.
inside this.
Left hand. All the way up.
This.
Black.
Except you need to make this change for here's
Do here, Brian. Oh no. No, we're not. No, dude. Oh. No. The rate in the casket. You didn't tell that? Dude, the guy there. Oh. Skeleton. Oh.
Oh, okay, so. Whoever got a team is the wise. Usually that means that it means you're trying to write something.
You're all fine.
You missed Friday.
Yes. Legs out. Go back. You're fine. Keep your eye open. Class. Nine play. Same spot. Make sure to grab. Now. Oh my god. No. Deep. Let's dive. Oh, you don't. I'll do that. You're dividing it by 2 right here. How do you divide it by 2 there? Now do it. Don't take it off. No. Don't divide by 2 on the end. Now do it. Yeah, I'm just not doing it. That's good. Yeah, I played that way. Oh, wait, we got 9. Free throw? No, free throw was just us. Okay, we do that in party lane.
No, so the method is called draw windows because its purpose is to draw both of them. So you just put the code to draw.
I have it. You enter that. I'll tell you that. So hashtag 200, 263 653 970 2F5 990. When I say O, it's actually 0. 990 9B. A. Make sure the E is there. So it would be F.
Okay, and then as for draw windows.
That's not the 653 970.
Although I guess
010.
L window got good with right side here.
990.
I'll have to scroll over that where you can see what it's got. That's correct.
9
Oh, it's just so after you change. Yeah, here.
Oh, you just write it down. Oh, even
And then lowercase LX and LY. So you can call R and R.
Chinch.
Are you gay or chat?
You gotta turn the right lane. Oh, B.
Are you gay or chat?
So you don't need a.
On G for chat. Wait, why is that not like that?
So you're not, you can go start the
Leave me
session.
alone, chat.
You try to create
Something like
something.
that, right?
So So you try to make them.
We're in this tiny little box. Okay, no.
So you don't
Your
use
resume have bullets that go on like
We're
this.
just, so.
So here's our goes in. Wait, he's like really good at this, so we gotta.
Whenever I call wow, it'll just automatically know whatever is inside, whatever that is.
Vibrating bullets, new cars, no.
It's just the method called. So the methods you can think of as like making a section.
Let me get this bullet out.
All right, we're getting towards the end of class here. So if you're having any questions, please, if you're having errors or anything, let me know. I'll be coming around to correct them. Otherwise, save your work and close up shop, clean off your desk, that kind of thing.
So this is going to start. Let's explain this. So
You got your super.
a class is like a whole file, right? These are different ones. Methods.
Let me feel the shit. Dude, stop. Feel the shit. No, dude,
So that's what's happening. Paul.
More damage. Yes.
Oh, same thing with
People like these.
now that you're getting is called zero starting expression. That is not what So illegal starting expression. So this is these are the ones that actually draw. This is one kind of organ.
Should I terminate on some house?
Anyone else have any issues with their code right now? All right, well, this is good. For those who are watching the video, hopefully you had success. But just so you can check your work, here's what that looks like. As a matter of fact, it'd be easier in reality to just do this. Copy, paste, R window, RX, RY, X, RY, R window, R window. Zoom here a little bit, make sure. Yep, and then all we need to do is make this 0.75 instead. Golden. And that would be how to complete that task.
Okay, I'm probably